Hey everyone, Cody here. We're going to go ahead and cover over how to wire up and build a gamma ray. Now, by watching this video, you can pretty much do the same thing to a gigawatt, but we will make a different video for a gigawatt. In fact, we will be covering how to wire a gigawatt in 240 volt because of commercial customers that bought from us have asked that question and they want to know how to build the grow lights themselves. Now, most everyone's not worried about 240. And you don't need to be either. If you just plug things into your house outlet, or on extension cords, this is going to be fine for you. So don't worry about 240. Don't let that scare you. That's a different video for a different day, and that's primarily for commercial customers or those who know what 240 volts is. If you don't really know what that is or it doesn't apply to you, this video doesn't apply to 240. So nothing to worry about. Here we're going over the parts list. We have 4 screws to every diode and then a screw through the diode cap. So every diode needs 5 screws, 4 for the diode and 1 for the diode cap. Here's some heat shrink tubing. Okay, we'll be using that near the end of the build. Here's a little spool of solder that we include and a grounding a washer for the ground screw. This is all included with the kit. Now here is high heat silicone wiring, black and red. And now what's not covered in the kit is a soldering iron. You will need to buy one of those yourselves. Harbor Freight has them. Home Depot and Lowe's has them for fairly affordable prices. Also, this silicone here we do not include because you won't need a lot of it. So we didn't want to include a whole thing of it and you just really don't need it. So you go to the Lowe's or Home Depot and you can find that GE all metal silicone. Here you see a wire cutter. You can buy that at Harbor Freight. This is the silicone that you're going to need. They sell that at Lowe's. This is where we buy ours from in bulk. And it's this particular all metal silicone. Just look for that green and gold silicone. It's about $6. We do not include it with the kit, but this particular silicone doesn't, it doesn't shrink. It doesn't put off nasty fumes, and it holds up to the heat levels that the light will undergo. So when you put the diode caps, or when you put the diodes onto the board, again, look at the words on NukeHeads. It's backwards. We're putting the diodes on the back side, and see these terminals? Make sure those terminals are on the side of the hole. So where we're going to be soldering wire to, they need to be facing the bigger holes. So see the holes? Just take a look, pause the video, take a look at the orientation of the diodes, and that's how you need to put your diodes on this board before we begin putting screws in them. Now my wife's going to go ahead and jump ahead here, and man, I just paid to get those nails done too. So as she's doing that, I'm like, God, I hope you don't scratch a nail or break one. my wife and daughter gets expensive, but they love to build things, and she can't help herself. And I wanted her to build it to show that anyone can build this thing. Take a look at those NukeHead diodes. These are our newest, latest, greatest diodes. They're branded, but they have some changes under the hood, and I think you'll really love them. Now we're going to pull off those little terminal caps. These are technically solderless diodes, and I don't like anything that's not soldered. So we're going to take this approach with a higher quality standard here, and we're going to solder diodes we're going to solder to the terminals direct. So I do apologize about the background noise. My microphone was picking up some of the hydroponic pumps in the background, so I made a little bit of adjustment here. Now moving forwards, we have all of the little solder caps removed from the diodes. It's now time to move forward to wiring up your diodes. Yeah, we're already there that fast. I told you, it's easy stuff. And that's why everyone will like our system, because anyone can do it. It's super simple. It's ultra effective. It's almost 95% metal in construction. It doesn't get tougher than that. So all we've done is made a very simple product that anyone can use, but at the same time, it has proven itself in the garden. So you're going to take the black wire, you're going to run it through the back side in, as you've seen here. Go ahead and back up the video if you need to. Just make sure you don't miss anything. And take a quick look there on your diode caps. You're going to see an N and an L on each diode. Now, even though that's not a typical wiring standard, what we're going to be doing here, a lot of people always associate the N with negative, and negative being a black wire. Everyone pretty much knows that one as a universal. Now, when it comes to electrical, that's a little bit different here. But to keep things simple, and because AC doesn't care, we are going to connect the black wire to the N terminal. So see that L? That one we're going to use the red wire on. So we're basically focusing on all of the negative, or the N at this time. In electrical standards, a neutral, and the other one's a line hot, but we don't want to confuse anyone. And to make it simple, N is negative, so N will be the black wire in our wiring schema. So here my wife has already soldered down the wire to one diode, and we're basically going to jump on over to another diode. And she was needing a little bit more solder. We give you plenty of solder. You should be able to finish out the job and have some left over, as well as having some extra wire left over. However, if you need anything extra, or if you mess something up, we sell we sell all the parts in different kits. So we sell the power wire and things like that. Just go to GammaGrowlights.com and be sure to check out the upgrade section and category and kits, and you'll find all the parts you need. So you soldered the first diode, but now we need to run the wire to the second diode. Do you see where her nail is? See that point? All right, from that hole to that farthest away screw is the point of cut. That way your wire is not too long and having a bunch of sag, and everything is perfect and looks clean and tight. Now what she did there is not only she ran the wire from the one diode she's already soldered, but she brought some extra wire in from the wire that we give you, which you'll be using the wire up all the diodes. So she's running two. See, take a look at the wire. There's that wire. She's running the two through the hole. And that way, everything is fluid, all in one motion. So she runs the two through there. That way she can twist them together, solder them to this diode, and then rinse and repeat the same process. So here, that wire stripper you just seen is about $5 at Harbor Freight. I tell you right now, it would be beneficial to you to go to Harbor Freight and get you those wire strippers. I cannot find those anywhere else. Only Harbor Freight has them. So here, she's going to be twisting together the wires. Now, notice how she takes the pliers and bends the terminals outward or away. So what she's doing is she's trying to make a gap between the L and the N connector terminals. That way there's no electrical short and they don't touch. Now, if you have a little tiny wire fray, see how if you look between the terminals, there's no little tiny wire fray crossing over from the N to the L terminal? If you have one, you don't have to freak out. When you turn the light on, it will burn those off like fuses. Just make sure you keep something to put out any possible flame if you're going to plug that in. This is typically safe when you get to a point of plugging it in. But if you have any wire frays that you didn't get rid of, those are going to burn off. We typically fire on the light and we expect a crackle or two just because we get fast with it, and you might as well. It will not harm anything. It's not going to kick a brake or anything, and it shouldn't cause a fire or anything. But always take caution and safety first. So keep something you could, like a little water spray bottle, just in case a spark jumped off on your carpet. You could spray it so it doesn't burn your carpet. Again, we're just repeating the same process. We're going from basically end to end to end to end to end. This would be called parallel in electronics lingo, in terms bridging if you're an car audio enthusiast. So we're just going from end to end to end to end. All of the ends are being connected together. So again, she's taken the wire from one diode, measured it by using the process. Be sure to go back, pause the video to see how she measures that wire out. She runs it to the big hole and then to the furthest away screw, and that gives her enough wire without wasting it. And that's how you can get a perfect wiring system on here, and everything looks clean, nice and neat. So still, we're just simply wiring negative to negative to negative to negative. And now we're at the point where we're at the crossover point from one side to another. And see how she uses some needle nose pliers there? If you have that, if you don't, Harbor Freight has them for like $1. So you get a lot of these tools at Harbor Freight. We don't include them with a kit for obvious reasons. It would make the kit too costly. And do-it-yourselfers typically have these type of tools on hand. So if you notice, all of the negatives are now connected. She's now at the end of the board where the wire needs to be plugged into a power cord. So take a note how she just measured that wire and got its length. So she's going to go ahead and leave that and just kind of let it dangle off, not do anything with it, because now we need to put away the black wire, and now it's time to grab the red wire and start doing the same thing we just did, but with a red wire. Alright, so now as we move over to the red wire, we're basically going to start where we started the black wire and work the same exact path that we did with the black wire. But here's a little trick. The trick is that we have to get the wire crammed through the same hole. Everything is dimensioned so so that the 4 wires will fit. But here at the end, we only have to worry about this one wire because this is where we started. So we're just basically repeating exactly what we did with the black wire. So take a note how she bent out that terminal. That way she gets a little bit more room for the wire to go into place, and she doesn't have too much concerns of things touching the red touching the black. You want to try to avoid that at all costs when you're doing this, just because we don't want it to scare you if you plug it in and it gets a little crackle. But nonetheless, sometimes we do that anyways because we're in a hurry and we overlook a little fray. But you know, we're right back to soldering the wire, and again, we connect the red to the L, and the only reason we do that is, again, it is easier for most people to remember N being negative and negative being the black wire. So that is why we run the red wire to the L terminal on the diode. So here you can see how we soldered it. You know, it doesn't have to be all too fancy smanchy, but you do it how you like to do it. Here, it stuck to the board very well. It's not going to come off there. So take a note again how she uses this measurement. See, from that hole to that bottom screw right there, that's how she measures every wire to perfection. That way you don't have too much or not enough. So it's very important that you paid attention to that little trick. And so again, she's grabbing that wire she just soldered along with more red wire from the kit that you got, and that way she's running 2 at once through the board, and she can quickly get this done. Now, some of you may feel more comfortable to do 1 wire at a time. That is fine too, but keep in mind we do a lot of these grow lights. In fact, we've got several. We've probably got about 700 in circulation right now as to date of this video. So we've learned the fastest ways to do this, but it doesn't mean that there's not another way you could do it. You could do 1 wire at a time if you're comfortable with that. But doing it this way, you're able to solder both wires together in one shot. Versus if you run 1 wire at a time, then you've got to solder 1 wire on top of another. And it's a bit slower, so it just, whatever you feel comfortable with, but nonetheless, it's the same. It's all done the same way, and it gets the job done, and that's all that matters. So here we're just back to soldering the 2 red leads together, and basically doing exactly what we have done with the black wire. So we're going to be pretty much covering over a lot of this and a little bit of redundancy here, just so you can feel comfortable that this video is giving you the information you need to make you feel like you can do this without any concerns. I mean, I thought about pulling my 12-year-old in and walking him through building it, because it's just that easy. It really is. All you have to just make sure you get you a wire stripper from Harbor Freight. Don't go to Lowe's or Home Depot. They're really expensive. If you have a Harbor Freight, go to Harbor Freight. I mean, if you don't have a choice, then get whatever you can get. Again, most do-it-yourselfers that we're targeting with this build kit already have this stuff. But at the same time, the other reason we're showing this video is so that you know how your grow light is built. So you yourself could feel confident in building your grow light, even if we built it for you. We have found a lot of customers absolutely are fine with paying us to build the grow light for them. But they really, really appreciate the fact that we have a video that they can watch to understand. Not everyone has time to build our grow light, but sometimes most folks just like to understand how the light was built, to understand under the hood what was done and why it works. So that's what this video is covering. It serves many purposes of building confidence that unlike other grow lights, as you can see, with the way things are wired, if you shot a hole through one diode with a BB gun, the rest would work. And probably even the one you shot a hole with a BB gun, that might still work too. These diodes are really, really tough. They don't mess around. They're almost an all-metal construction, and they can take insane levels of heat, especially our new NukeHeads diodes. So again, as you can see, we're just basically trailing right behind, copying the black wiring that we did the first time around, and see how she ran to that screw there to get that perfect amount of length. Always double check, make sure that you're doing it this way. That way you don't have to do it a second time. But if you follow what she's doing in this video, you can't go wrong. It may be a little tricky because it's your first time watching, but it's real simple. We go through the big hole, and then we measure out to the screw, right across from the hole. That way you get the perfect amount of length on your wiring. So again, same old thing here. We're just pulling them through, and this is why I suggest that you go to Harbor Freight and you pick up those wire strippers, because just watch this. She's doing 2 at one time. Just bang, they're done with a $5 wire stripper. I tell you right now, if those broke on us and we've used them, for 100, 200 times already, heck, probably 1,000 times. If they broke, I'd go to Harbor Freight and buy 10 of them to keep my operation going, because they have made our operation so much faster when it comes to wire stripping. So again, she likes to bend the terminals out in a way to give her room for those 2 wires that are twisted together to fit into that terminal area. That way she can solder them both together. And it also kind of keeps the red away from the black to keep everything safe and more uniform, with symmetry and distance between the wires, to follow a better, more common sense approach. So we're going to throw some more solder on here. And again, nothing new here. We're just rinsing and repeating. We're just doing the same thing from one diode to another diode as we follow the black wiring on through until we get to the power cord mounting area. So far, so good, huh? Not too hard, huh? Alright, and now look at this. We are about to be at the last diode, right before we start hooking everything up to the power cord. So again, following the same measuring technique to make sure the wire is the same distance, we're going to push this wire on through. But again, remember, you double them up, because now we've got one wire coming through to connect from one diode to the other diode, and then we need that extra wire left over that's going to be connected to the power plug. So here in a minute, your light's going to be powered on. You're going to need to test it. Hope you're excited about that. Hope you really love how easy the system is. And we're really excited to see everyone's results. Everyone's been sending us our photos in of their harvests and yields. And it's just outstanding. The grow light speaks for itself. But more than that, this is the grow light that gives you full control over the light. I mean, not only will this grow light grow to the biggest, most dense yields, its power output is with the best of them. Its power and efficiency isn't all that bad. It's actually quite comparable to some of the most efficient systems out there. In fact, we've tested it against many other lights. So this light you can have confidence in, but even more than that, you can have more confidence in this light than anything else out there, because you know how it works. You'll never have to worry about it breaking on you, because you can fix it. So here we're just doing the same old thing, just wiring that last terminal together, and a little pair of needle nose pliers to keep your fingers from getting burned always is helpful. So now we're at the point where the power cord is about to get wired up. Now, if you've done everything correctly, this is what you should be looking at. It's just kind of like one big C, where all the wires are ran in a giant C. So we're going to cut those off so that we can leave the red and black. Now, it's really, really important that you pay attention to this part right here coming up. This is the meat and bones, because if you wire this wrong, well, it won't do anything. If you wire it wrong, it may kick a breaker. And at the same time, be sure that nothing is plugged in. Take a look at that power cord real fast. Make sure, if you notice, we just cut the end of it. Back the video up. I know it's talking, and take a note that we cut the wire. We cut the wire head off, but we leave the end that you plug into the wall. We're only removing the other end that it plugs into something. So that's very important. If you don't want to screw that up. When you cut that wire, the wire head off, so that we're basically revealing these three wires, the black, the white, and the green. Again, take note, the other end of that is what plugs into the wall. So don't get that backwards, or you'll have to get yourself another power plug. Now, the little washer that comes with your kit is the grounding washer. For safety standards and following typical NEMA standards for ground fault protection, we also incorporate those safety standards into our builds. So when you follow this video, you'll never have to worry about this light catching your house on fire, shocking something, or shocking you, or being a danger to anything. And we train our technicians and everyone that knows about our lights or works with us as temp employees that come in and build lights. We have a protocol that we've now put them through to make sure this ground wire always gets put on. Whether it's a 240 volt connection or a 110 connection, that ground wire should be grounded to that metal board. So it's really simple. Just remember, the green wire from the electrical cord goes to the green board through that hole there. Again, the power cord wire is it goes to that point on the board. If you take a note where we screwed in, there's four holes, and then a fifth one kind of in the middle. So now we're running the heat shrink tubing. That is on the board there. We'll go ahead and cover over that a couple more times. And look, again, those handy dandy wire strippers from Harbor Freight, cannot beat them. You can't get them at Lowe's or Home Depot. You can't do it. They don't sell this auto stripper. And this thing, I'd have paid $50 for that thing. It is so useful. So go ahead and twist the black from your grow light that you just finished soldering and wiring up. Connect that and twist it together to the black coming from the power cord that you're going to plug into the wall. Now for the red is going to be twisted to the white wire coming from the power cord that you plug into the wall. So we go, black to black, white to red, and then the green wire gets grounded to the board. This way, if anything happened with a diode, or if you possibly miswired a diode, it doesn't let power go through the grow light, so you can't get shocked because the ground is screwed into the board. So we take safety to a very, very high level of focus. It's very important, especially if we're going to have you build the kit. We want you to build it right so you know that this is done correctly. We cannot say that for other countries that are importing grow lights over here and their quality level. But you yourself can talk to an electrician, show them this video, let them hear all the instructions in this video, and I guarantee you a licensed electrician will agree that's how things should be done, and that is safe. Alright, if you've gotten this far so good. So we've got the heat shrink tubing covering over those connections. Now we need to put the diode, or we need to put the power cord relief bracket on. This way, if you go yanking on the power cord, it doesn't yank your wires out of the diodes, and acts as a stress relief to the power cord. And if you really put a whole lot on it, then you can almost ensure the connection is water resistant. If you put a lot of extra silicone and really put some time into it, you could probably make that connection area waterproof, where you could dunk this entire light underwater. Now, we don't advise that for safety reasons. Obviously, we cannot tell you to do that. But if you see what we're talking about, that would be how you could probably waterproof your unit. We've already done this, and we've stuck the lights 2 feet underwater, and they were fine. Those diodes are waterproof, and if you follow this video, and if you do everything right, you should be able to, dunk this thing underwater. Now, again, we cannot advise you doing that for safety and legal reasons, just for those people that maybe didn't follow the instructions properly. So that is something at your own doing. It's mainly to instill confidence into you, to let you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, why we did it this way, and the benefits of doing it right. So here we're just, going over the screws. Those are grade 8 hardened stainless steel screws. Now we're going to go ahead and plug it in. You get to see your light come on. We're just going to test it, make sure everything's coming on, and that way before we put the diode caps on, yeah, don't look at it. It's in a camera, as you're watching right now, it's no problem. It doesn't look all that bright. But anyone that owns one of these will tell you that is the brightest light you've ever seen. Just imagine a 24 diode gigawatt model, which we'll be teaching you how to build that as well. That's coming up here this week. So if you go around the wires in a complete circle, that ensures that they are fully encircled with silicone, and that would probably, if you make sure you do this right, that should in fact give you some waterproofing or water resistance if you plan on spraying your light or putting an automation system that's going to mist your grow tent. If you're going to do anything cool like that, and you make sure that your light is going to be waterproof, then take a little more time than we're doing here in this video to put a little bit more emphasis in how much silicone you're putting. Now also take a note of that little blob. So that little blob that we put at the end there, we do that because we have designed these diode caps, as you can see right here, with grippers. That way that little blob, the purpose of that little blob is to bond into those little grippers in the diode cap, so that it can't come up, that it's really on there, it's going to stay on there, even if it gets hot, even if the plastic were to possibly ever get hot enough that it reached a glass melting point, meaning that the plastic got moldable, or if you touched it, you could make it bend inward. If should you ever get it that hot, this ensures that the wires are not exposed and that the light is safe. Now, that's pretty ugly. A lot of you that watched me build and design this grow light back when I hand drilled every hole before I had robots cut everything, you remember the silicone over each diode. And yeah, it might have been somewhat ugly, but it has a job. It does what it's supposed to do. And so since then, we've added these diode caps for additional safety, to make sure that after a couple years, none of that silicone gets rubbed off there, and a person or a child sticks their hand up there and gets a shock. So we put the silicone over it as one layer of safety, and then the diode cap is a secondary layer of safety to give twice the amount of safety in our build and design. So as long as you follow this properly, then as you're building this right now, the safety level of this light. It doesn't get any safer than that. And these are American build quality standards in redundancy for safety. Human safety is high on our importance list, as well as animals as well. You don't have to be corny about it, but come on, no one likes to get whacked by some electricity. So if you do things right, this light will never do that. If you watch this video and you built your gamma ray to the exact specifications that we've walked you through, then 100% you have an outstanding, high quality built light that you built yourself. Now it's time to plug it back in, because this light is finished. I will tell you right now ahead of time that because of that silicone, if you're in high altitude, or even if you're in low altitude, if you have any gas bubbles, it may make a pop noise after about 24 to 48 hours. We suggest you leave that light on immediately after you build it. Leave it on running for about 48 hours, and that way it'll remove some of those gases and you won't get a pop. Now, if you still get a pop, it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's simply trapped gases. It will not harm your light. Your light won't turn off or anything like that, but that probably meant you didn't burn it in long enough. We had a few customers when we were going through our beta test and launch that ran into that, and we had found that we simply weren't burning the lights in long enough before we shipped them. We were so excited to get them in the customer's hand that we had forgotten to do that. But all those lights are working. So far, we haven't had a single light fail thus far. We're very happy about that. The diodes that you just installed, we warranty the lights that we build for you for 6 months. The diodes typically handle 20,000 hours of life. That's a lot longer than 6 months. In fact, there's about 8,000 hours in a year. That's if you ran your light 24/7 for a year. That's 8,000 hours of life. So at 20,000 hours per diode, that's a few years of operation, roughly about 2.5 years. Now we like to be realistic at NukeHeads. We don't like to be exaggerant. So I like to deal with worst case scenarios. I like to say those diodes are probably going to last 2 years, and maybe I would even, just to be safe, maybe we'll just say a year, just to be safe. Despite their 20,000 hour lifespan, I say that because I don't want I like to exceed expectations. So when this thing lasts you, 4 or 5 years, and they go past the diode's lifespan, then great, we're happy with that. That exceeds what we told you that they would do. So our protocol is 6 months. Now take a look at that diagram there for the 240. See this plug right here? If you're going to wire at 240, we would advise that you watch this video first. The video covers a 110 wiring schema. But at the end of this video, just before I showed this plug here, just about 40 seconds back into this video, I show a diagram of how to wire the grow light with a 240 volt configuration. It requires this adapter, which we do sell on our website. So you'll still wire everything with a little bit of a different change up in how the board is being wired. And again, go back to that diagram. We will make a video on 240 volt wiring. So if you don't really want to dig through a schematic, just wait till we create that video. But for those that are a little bit more experienced with electrical, that schematic will pretty much make it clear how to wire your Gamma Ray or even a Giga for a 240 volt conversion. Then buy this adapter from our website, plug it into the 110 power adapter that we provided you, the power cord, and your 240 will work just fine. Thank you for watching.